Have you ever wondered how your computer knows the difference between the number 10 and the word 10? Well, that's where data types in Python come in. They are the absolute bedrock of all your code. And today, we're going to break down exactly what they are and why they're your first giant leap toward writing some seriously powerful programs. So here's what's on the docket today. We're going to start with the big why. Then we'll meet the core 4 data types you're going to use pretty much every single day. From there, we'll see how they connect to real-world info, and we'll even get our hands dirty with Python's own type checker. We'll also learn the art of changing types, and then, to wrap it all up, you'll get your very first coding challenge to put your new skills to the test. All right, let's kick things off at square one. What in the world are data types? And, why should you even care? Why does your code completely fall apart without them? Let me throw a little puzzle at you. You and I, we both know you can't add the number 5 to the word hello. It just doesn't make sense. But why can't a computer do it? The answer to this super simple question really gets to the heart of why data types are so critical in programming. And the answer is, well, it's right there in the name. They are different types of information. You can think of a computer as a super organized person. It has a specific box just for numbers, a totally separate one for text, and another one for simple true or false statements. You can't just toss text into the number box and expect it to work. That fundamental rule, that need to categorize everything, that is what a data type is. So, what are these boxes or types in Python? Well, let's meet the core 4. These are the absolute heavy hitters, the ones you're going to be using in almost every single program you write from here on out. First up, we've got strings and integers. A string, or str as you'll see it in code, is basically any sequence of characters you wrap in quotes. Just think of it as any bit of text. An integer, or int, is even simpler. It's any whole number. Positive, negative, doesn't matter, as long as there's no decimal point. It's absolutely perfect for things like counting. Next up are floats and booleans. A float is any number that does have a decimal point. These are essential for anything that needs precision, right? Like money or scientific measurements. And then there's a boolean, or bool, which might be the simplest of them all. It only has 2 possible values, true or false. That's it. It's basically a light switch for your code. It's either on or it's off. And here's a handy little summary of everything we've just gone over. This is a great cheat sheet to have for the core types, with their descriptions and a few quick examples. You might want to keep this one in your back pocket. Okay, so that's all the theory. But how do these kind of abstract ideas actually represent real-world stuff? Like details about you. Take a look at this list. We're talking about your name, your address, your age, real-world stuff. How would a computer file this information away? Just take a second and think about it. Which of the data types we just talked about would fit each of these examples? So here's how it all shakes out. Your name and your address, well, they're text, right? So they are definitely strings. Your age is a whole number, so that makes it an integer. The question, are you in school today, is a simple yes or no, which is the perfect job for a boolean. It's either true or false. And your height, since it probably has a decimal in there somewhere, is a real number, or what we call a float. All right, so now we know how to categorize data. But how can we check our work? Is there a way to ask Python directly, hey, what kind of data do you think this is? Oh, you bet there is. Python gives us this awesome little tool called the type function. It's like having a detective's magnifying glass for your code. You can put any piece of data inside those parentheses, and Python will tell you exactly what type it sees. It's super useful. Okay, time for a pop quiz. Let's put that type function to the test. Here are 5 examples. Before I give you the answers, just pause for a second and try to guess what Python is going to spit out for each line. What type is hello? What about the number 87? Or 7684? All right, let's see how you did. So, hello in quotes is a string, or str. 87 is a whole number, so that's an int. True is, of course, a bool. 56.72 has that decimal point, which makes it a float. And now for the tricky one. See how 7684 is inside quotes? That's the key. To Python, that's just text. It doesn't see it as a number you can do math with. So it's a string. That's a super important detail. That last example is the perfect lead-in to our next big topic. What do you do when you have data that's a string, but you really, really need it to be a number? This is where we learn the awesome art of transformation. Here's a problem you're going to run into all the time, I promise. When you ask a user for something with the input function, Python always gives you back a string. It doesn't matter if they type 25. Python sees it as the text characters 2 and 5, not the number 25. And you can't do math with text. The solution is this really powerful technique called typecasting. Now, it sounds kind of fancy, but all it means is converting data from one type to another. We can use these handy little functions like int to turn a string into an integer or float to turn it into a number with a decimal. It's that simple. And here it is in action. See what we're doing here? By wrapping the input function inside the int function, we're basically telling Python, hey, whatever text the user gives you, I want you to convert it to a whole number and then store it. This is how you turn that text input into real numbers that you can actually use in your program. Whew, we have covered a ton of ground, from what data types even are to how you can change them on the fly. Now, it's time to put all that amazing knowledge into practice. It's your turn to get your hands on the keyboard. So, here is your first official coding challenge. I want you to write a small Python program that follows these 4 steps. First, ask the user for their name. Second, ask them for their age. Third, and this is the most important part, you have to cast that age from the string you get into an integer. And finally, just print a friendly message back to the user that includes their name and their newly converted age. And as you're working on that challenge, I want to leave you with one final thought to chew on. We've just talked about simple types, right, for text and for numbers. But what about way more complex data? How do you think these fundamental building blocks, strings, integers, booleans, are all combined and stacked up to represent something as incredibly complex as a digital photograph or your favorite song? It's a pretty mind-blowing question, and it really opens the door to the next level of programming. So give the challenge a shot and keep on exploring.